Okay, so as I earlier mentioned, and I repeat here, so in the next 2 hours, we'll aim to stimulate discussion, extremely relevant topics such as Horizon Europe program. And as Francisco Rocha already mentioned, we will think and look into tips and recommendation on successful proposal development. There will be also a Q&A session after each section of the presentation. Without further ado, I would like just briefly to introduce Francisco before I pass the floor to him. So Francisco Rocha is a innovation strategy and business development. He is a key team member in a range of European Commission projects under the 7th Framework Program and Horizon 2020, specifically in the fields of ICT, entrepreneurship, internalization, social innovation, among others. Francisco is also currently supporting the daily operations of the international business activities of the company, and mainly in the Asian market, China, Indonesia, and Singapore. And he also, in 2015, has been based in Brussels under the European Business and Innovation Center Network, called shortly EBN. This is all from me, and I thank so much everyone for joining, and I pass the floor to Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olga, for the introduction. I will now share my screen. Please let me know if you see it.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Just a second. All right. First of all, thank you very much, Olga. Thank you, Omar, and the DIGI-B-CUBE project to give me the opportunity to provide this session to you. As Olga was mentioning, the objective here and for this session, hour and a half, was the questions and answers and the discussions, is to first give an overview of what is the Horizon Europe program. So this, as you know, is a new, or you may know, it's a new program from the European Commission Research and Innovation Directorate General, and it provides a lot of opportunities for different types of factors. And so we want to give an overall look of how the program looks like, in case this is, you have not explored the program that much. And then we want, besides that, to give you some tips and recommendations concerning how to prepare proposals and winning proposals, and then that lead to projects within this program. And this is based on the experience that SPI, which is a consultancy company in Portugal, has been able to build throughout the years. So since the 7th Framework Program in 2000, which was the program before Horizon 2020, until now. So it gives us a lot of experiences and recommendations that we think are very useful when preparing such proposals. So the idea then is to discuss what could be the opportunities for you and where could be a better fit for your needs and for your areas of interest within this program. So moving forward to the agenda, as I mentioned, we'll have 3 points. I had here some opening remarks, but Olga already mentioned them, which are much better than the ones I'm presenting here. But the idea is that we want to have in 2 stages. First, when I finish presenting the introduction to Horizon Europe, to hear from you and also to receive some questions on what you think, and also to discuss with you any points that you think might be relevant. And then after there is the second session on the tips and recommendations, to also have some time so that we can discuss, understand what could be your needs and what could eventually be aspects that you can look for in the program that could be relevant for your organization. Another relevant point is that this information that we will be presenting here is collected through many sources and many links mainly from the European Commission website and other presentations that have been done for the Horizon Europe program. And so these links and these sources can be provided to you after the session in case you are looking for further information on specific topics or thematics. So having said that, I will move to the first part of the session on the introduction to the Horizon Europe program. So as you may know, because this has been highly disseminated and communicated by the European Commission, Horizon Europe is actually the biggest ever research and innovation funding program done. And it has a budget of 95 billion euros for a period that will go from now, 2021, the program opened in June this year, until December 2027, with open calls and opportunities for different types of institutions, including companies and small and medium enterprises. The objective or the vision of Horizon Europe, in case you are aware of how Horizon 2020 was developed, Horizon Europe keeps this vision and tries to update and maximize the impact of Horizon 2020 and the priorities at the EU level, trying to, as mentioned there in the slide, strengthen excellent EU science and technology and foster the competitiveness of Europe and its companies, the performance, etc. In particular, Horizon Europe has a focus as well on climate change. So you see there in purple a point that 35% of the budget will be somewhat related or contributing to climate change and climate related objectives. So this is a big part, and it also shows the strategy that the European Commission is developing and what are the priorities for the agency. There is also a direct connection with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and so the program will support the achievement of these goals. And as I mentioned, there is now in this program strong focus on the part of growing business and growing the industries part of the EU, which has been gaining more and more impact, more and more importance as the years come by and the programs are evolving, leading towards more innovation actions rather than research actions, which is also very relevant for the company's perspective and for implementing activities that can involve SMEs and other types of companies. So, as I just mentioned, the program was published, the work programs actually were published in June 16. So this was the official launch of the program, with many deadlines for proposals that already are over in the beginning of September, that are going through in September, and other deadlines for submitting proposals that will go on in October, November, and then 2022. So all of this information is actually available in the European Commission website. I think, and we like to present this, but this is especially relevant for those that are that know Horizon 2020 or that have worked in Horizon 2020 in the past. And if we consider the breakdown per specific program, we can see that the structure between Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe is similar, or I would say very similar. As you can see, there is still a pillar related with excellent science, so the part of research and pure research is done here. The societal challenges in Horizon 2020 are now called global challenges and European industrial competitiveness, so focusing more on this part of the industry, and then the industrial leadership leads to an innovative Europe. You can see that the shift is changing for the innovation side, as I was just mentioned. How does this translate then into the specific programs, actions, and opportunities that are available under Horizon Europe? So you have here on this slide, and this was a structure that was known and publicized by the Commission already some months ago, and this has been in discussions and public information for actually more than a year. And so here you can see how the program is divided by the three pillars that I just mentioned that are the main part of Horizon Europe, as well as an horizontal part, which includes the widening participation and strengthening the European research area. Here you have these two parts that are included, sort of a fourth pillar of the European Commission. Of course, within this pillar, there are, as you can see, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail in the next slides, but you can see that there are different programs and topics and thematics within each one of these pillars. And within these programs and thematics, there are specific opportunities that companies and other organizations can apply to. This is, as I mentioned, a very big program with hundreds and hundreds, and it will end up being thousands of opportunities. So there is room for every type of stakeholders, every type of organization. There is room for opportunities that you can apply as a consortium of several institutions. There is room for opportunities that you can apply as one institution or as a single institution to a specific opportunity, or as an individual, as a researcher. So there is a large set of opportunities, and there is room for different types of activities. Now, if we look at the budget and how this is divided, you will see that pillar number 2, which concerns the global challenges and the industrial competitiveness, is the one with the most or the highest budget among the programs. So it has 53 billion euros of budget, which is more than half actually of the total Horizon Europe budget. So there are, of course, a lot of opportunities in this pillar 2, although the other parts are also very, very large, as you can see. The second pillar, which has the most budget, is the excellent science, as you will see, 25 million euros, and then pillar 3 of Innovative Europe with 13 billion euros. So you see the magnitude of the program and of the different opportunities that can be found within each pillar. The idea is now that I present each one of these pillars, and I'm going to talk into detail about each program that is available, and in some cases show you some examples of opportunities that could be of interest. So starting with pillar 1 on the excellent science, as you can see there on the slide, the main objective of this pillar is to target European science and research and reinforce its excellence at the EU level. So this is very much targeting research actions and scientific actions, reinforcing actually the scientific base of the European Union. Within pillar 1, you have 3 types of programs. The first is the European Research Council, which has the largest budget, as you can see, 16 billion euros. And the main mission is to encourage highest quality research in Europe and support research-driven actions across different fields and across different areas. So it supports, as mentioned in the slide, frontier research, cross-disciplinary proposals and ideas for emergent fields, and that could in the future have innovative approaches. So focusing very much on high quality research. The second program is related with the Marie Curie actions. These are very well known among the research and scientific community because it provides grants to researchers in their different stages of their career, encouraging transnational mobility and mobility within sectors and within disciplines. And so it enables universities, research centers to host high quality researchers and to create partnerships with research institutions at the world level. So the budget for this is 6.6 billion, of course, very much targeting individual researchers or research institutions that have a focus on the scientific aspects. Finally, you have a third type of program, which is the European Research Infrastructure Program. So these research infrastructures are facilities, as mentioned in the slide, that provide resources and services for research communities to conduct research and foster innovation. So basically, they include aspects to support the creation of an infrastructure, and that this infrastructure could be a world-class research institution, and that ensures that research is developed on a specific thematic with different institutions throughout Europe, and that is a flagship also on that specific thematic at the European level. For this program, there is a total of 2.4 billion euros. So again, as I mentioned, this first pillar is focused very much on the scientific part. I understand that the participants are more on the business side, and we have some companies with us and some SMEs or some SME support organizations, and so we understand that more opportunities of Horizon Europe can be focused on the next two pillars. So starting on pillar 2, which is global challenges. Pillar 2 has a total of 6 clusters in different areas and topics that basically support EU policies and the sustainable development goals, as I mentioned before. So the main objective here is to boost the key technology solutions that support EU policies and SDGs, as I just mentioned. And these are organized under different clusters, which have a specific thematic of interest. So you see there in total we have 6. So the health, the second one on culture, creativity and inclusive societies, third on civil society, security for society, a fourth on digital industry and space, a fifth one on climate, energy and mobility, and the sixth one on food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment. So within each one of these clusters, there are hundreds of opportunities and calls for proposals that are open for institutions to provide their proposals and their projects and try to get funding within each one of these clusters. You will see here the budget per cluster, and you can see that the one that has the higher budget is the digital industry and space, with 15 billion euros of budget, and the climate, energy and mobility with another 15 billion. Of course, these are, again, very, very big amounts. And there is opportunities for almost every type of organization, and in different areas and in different thematics within each one of these clusters. In the next 2 slides, we show you here just some examples of areas of intervention within each cluster. So, of course, when we talk about health, there are several specific areas or sectors and thematics which health can be specialized in. And so there are different areas of intervention that Horizon Europe focus. You can see there some examples on the health side, for example, healthcare systems or environmental and social health, infectious diseases, etc. So you see that there is a variety, a high variety of areas and actions that can be of focus on each of the cluster. And this is just for your information, have a better sense on what you can find within each area, each cluster. The same for the next 3 clusters. Again, this is very broad, the areas that are included in each one. You can see here, for example, in the first one, on the digital industry and space, you have different types of areas of intervention. For example, manufacturing technology, advanced materials, next generation internet, key digital technology. So different topics, different thematics that are considered priority by the European Union and the European Commission, and where you can find specific opportunities to develop your projects and develop your ideas within each one of these areas of intervention. In the next slide, I have here two examples. Because of the DIGI-B-CUBE, I included two examples in the area of health. So, but this is for you to see the types of opportunities and the actions that are there. These are two opportunities that are within the cluster of health, as I just mentioned, two opportunities for 2022, and opportunities that should be provided in a consortium of partners. That is, at least the proposals that are presented for these two topics, for example, should have consortiums of at least 3 partners from 3 different EU member states. And so you can find, and this is very, very straightforward if you are aware of the European Commission website, where you can find all of this information, and we can share the links with you afterwards. But if you just type the name of the opportunity, the call on Google, you will see that the first or one of the first links that you will find is for the website of the European Commission, where you can find all the information related to each one of these opportunities. What is the goal, the budget, the deadline, who can apply, and all of that information should be available on the website and for each one of these opportunities. So these are just 2 examples of the types of actions and the thematics that are approached within each cluster and what is necessary for each one. You will see, for example, in the first, proposals are expected to help strengthening cybersecurity, maintaining the performance of medical devices. Of course, this is something very specific, but in case you have an area of action or some expertise in a part of this thematic, this can be of interest to you. Of course, these are sometimes calls of at least 3 million, it can be more, 3 million euros on average, or much more. There are calls of 10 million euros, 15 million euros, for example. And so these are opportunities that involve a large set of partners with a large set of skills. And so each partner does something specific or is responsible for something specific in the project. This is to say that you don't need to know everything about the thematic or every specific area of intervention of the thematic, but that the consortium as a whole should be able to provide that expertise. And so this is very important, the consortium and the expertise of building an important and strong consortium for these opportunities. And this will be further stressed during the second part of the session on the tips and recommendations. This is the connection with the Sustainable Development Goals. So this slide is, I'm not going to go into detail on each, but each one of these blocks is one of the clusters of Pillar 2, which is related to one or more Sustainable Development Goals, which of course is in line with what the Commission expected in terms of its policies and having the alignment with the SDGs. On Pillar 2, besides the clusters, there is also a new opportunity which the Commission calls research and innovation missions. And so these are specific sets of opportunities that are related with specific thematics or actions related with research and innovation. So the Commission is currently defining these. This information about these missions is already available. Calls within the work program of the Horizon 2020 have been included within these missions, and they focus on very specific thematics. So I have here actually on the next slide the missions that have been identified And so the focus here is that within each one of these missions, there will be specific opportunities focusing on the thematics that are mentioned there. And the expectation is that in the upcoming years, more and more opportunities will come from this mission. So this is also a good aspect that can be considered. Now moving to pillar 3. Pillar 3 is the pillar that is related with innovation actions. So with activities that focus more even on the business side, on going to market, on bringing the innovation to the market and to the people. And so this is very much an incentive for organizations such as companies or SMEs that want to develop their own businesses. So as mentioned there on the slide, the objective here is to stimulate market breakthroughs and ecosystems that conduct to innovations. So there are different types of actions and opportunities that are included here, and opportunities that promote this innovation and this market creation of value. The first one concerns the European Innovation Council, the EIC. So that is the first bullet point that you find there on the slide. The EIC basically supports not only researchers, but also innovators in developing high-risk innovation and potential to create new markets, boost jobs, growth, etc., etc. The EIC actually replaces, and for those that maybe have applied in the past or that have been awarded, replaces the Horizon 2020 SME instrument. And so there are a lot of opportunities within the EIC that focus on promoting innovation and new technologies for companies, so that have to be applied just by one SME, and that focus on developing their business and their technology and their innovation. I will show some examples in the next slide. The second set of programs concerns the European Innovation Ecosystems, the EIE. So this is a new program as well, and connects regional and national innovation actors. So the focus here is that it is possible to implement projects and actions that can demonstrate and support the development of regional and innovation actors. So how can co-funding mechanisms work better? How to create synergies at the regional and national level with different types of factors in order to create innovation. So we are thinking, for example, in Portugal, in the Northern Regional Innovation Center, together with them, trying to understand how we can define priorities for promoting innovation, how to define actions that can involve different types of factors. And so this connection, this concept of having a wide ecosystem that involves different types of factors is what is asked here in the European Innovation Ecosystems, the EIE. And finally, the EIT, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. So this was included also in Horizon 2020, and it brings key actors together for a common goal of innovation. So this is an institute that is actually an initiative from EU and supports innovation across the EU by integrating different types of actors. You have there research, education, business, and the supporting of other long-term partnerships at the European level. Now, this slide here is important because it shows good examples of opportunities that SMEs in Europe can apply, and especially the first one. So the first one, of course, you can see that the deadline is almost over. It's already next week, but calls for the EIC accelerator will open, in 2020 in the next years. So there will be more opportunities, and the objective is to support companies, either in particular, as you see there, startups and SMEs, to scale up their innovation, to support their development of their businesses and their technologies, to create new markets or disrupt new ones. So this is very much targeting only one company, only one beneficiary, and improving the technology, the innovation, creating value for that institution and also for the ecosystem as a whole. So this can be very interesting for those SMEs that are looking to a specific program within Horizon Europe to support their business. And this could be something of high interest for the participants of this webinar from what I understand. The two other examples that we have on the slide concern that second program that I just mentioned, the EIE, which focuses on the connection of national and regional actors. And you see there two good examples of how this can be done. The first one on scaling up deep tech ecosystems. So to support the development of innovation ecosystems on different with different technology areas and involving different actors within the national and regional ecosystem. The third one, expanding entrepreneurial ecosystems, it's something similar to support entrepreneurial skills of youth in moderate and moderate innovating ecosystems, and so to support the development of entrepreneurial youth. And this is also something that can be provided in a consortium of organizations to apply for this program. Finally, it is important to talk about this fourth pillar, which concerns the part of the widening participation and strengthening the European research area. And this includes also some relevant opportunities for innovators, but also for the research side. So first, speaking about the widening participation and excellent science. So here you have there on the slide, as you can see, 6 types of actions that can be developed under this widening program. The program has a total of 2.9 billion euros of funding. So the objective here and the objective of the widening actions is to address the causes of low participation in Europe's more modest innovative countries and talents, and so to support the widening of European research and innovation. So there are different types of programs which can be of use. I will go very quickly because I believe that this is very relevant, of course, for the business side and for innovators, but in some cases the target is more the research actors rather than the innovator actors per se. So the teaming projects which aim to create centers of excellence in widening countries, in countries that are considered as widening, and you can see that in the European Commission website. Twinning, which strengthens the field of research in an emerging institution, and it links the institutions from different places in Europe. The ERA shares, which is also related with excellent research, which brings outstanding academics to a research institution in a widening country. Costs are, it means that these are European cooperation in science and technology for the development of research and innovation networks. This can, of course, include different types of actors, not only research actors, but it includes the development of these networks. The fourth is support specifically to national contact points in each one of European countries. So this is not to private institutions, private companies. And there is also actions concerning brain circulation. So for the development and for the involvement of researchers in different places in Europe to connect with other research institutions. And there is a new modality that the European Commission calls upon projects that enables widening countries to join projects that are already ongoing. I think this is some very specific examples that can, of course, be relevant, but maybe not the most adequate to this webinar. Also, there are other aspects concerning the reforming and enhancing of the European research and innovation system. And here you have 6 aspects that the European Commission considers and that should be considered for the development of new opportunities. Of course, these are thematics that are very much supported by the European Commission, such as gender equality, open science, for example. And so opportunities within these topics are expected to come and are expected to be of great relevance as well for the potential applicants. Finally, we also wanted to talk a little bit about the simplification of the process. Those that have applied to Horizon 2020 opportunities in the past and actually before 2018, sometimes it was difficult to understand where different opportunities could be found, etc. But since 2018, the European Commission has launched a single electronic point or website, if you want to call it like that, a single portal where you can find information from the different opportunities that exist at the European Commission level. So this basically simplifies the whole process. You have there in the slide, simplifying the model grant agreements, simplifying the portal where you can submit the action, and so this can create synergies with other EU programs. What we want to, I think that what we want to highlight here is that the process is quite simple, although the projects are of very, very high amounts, as I just mentioned, sometimes including consortiums of 20, 30 partners. And so this could have the potential to be something very, very complex, but actually the system works quite well and is relatively simple to manage. And so we, of course, invite everyone that is interested to check the website and check how the implementation and the proposal submission is done. But the process is quite simple for what eventually it could be. So now we are stopping for a set of questions and answers. Before opening, and I know that I see some messages in the chat, I haven't read them, but I will see. But before opening, we usually have here some topics that could be relevant to address or that might have come to your mind while we were listening to the presentation. The first one on how many calls are open at the moment. Normally, sometimes people ask us this. So at the moment between 2021 and 2022, so the current work program that is open, we have around 400 calls available. Of course, some of them already closed because there were deadlines for the beginning of September, but since the opening of the program in June, there were around 400 calls open for applications. In terms of the consortiums, when you are applying to a specific project, this might vary a lot. Of course, as I mentioned, I gave the examples of the EICs, which were targeting single SMEs or proposals of a single partner. And so those do not require any international consortium, but there are proposals that have 20, 30 partners. So it really depends. In terms of approval rates, so this is something that is discussed a lot. There is a lot of competition in Horizon Europe. We have to say, I think this is known by every applicant. The success rates are actually less than 10%. I believe those were one of the most updated numbers. So as you see, this is very, very low. And so there is a lot of competition, and having a proposal that is approved is not something easy, but of course, there is a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of actions that are open. And so we think that if there is the right fit to present a proposal to a specific project, we of course advise that that is the case. To obtain further help, and if of course we are opening now after that to questions, but in case there is something concerning the program that we are not aware of, or if you want a specific advice or information, please go to the European Commission website. They do have a lot of information available for free, and also you can contact your national contact point, which I will provide the website so later on, for further information on specific opportunities or aspects that you want to see better detailed from your side. So Omar, this is the first part of the presentation. I don't know if there are any questions at this stage.
There is only one question on chat.
Yes. Sorry, I got here the light. I don't know if I can. No, I do not know when the new is going to be disclosed. There is a question about the EIC Pathfinder Challenges deadline, which is in October, November. I actually, yeah, I believe it is in October, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not sure when the new actions, new challenges are going to be disclosed. I believe there will be one into 2022. I was looking at the work program of the EIC, so I advise just to check there, because there is a work program of a PDF that you can download on the European Commission website with the whole work program of the EIC. And more information on that can be checked there, but we don't have information on when it is going to be disclosed. I also, sorry, I just saw the question here. This is a good question on if we can see somewhere an overview of all calls. Yes, it is possible. So in the funding and tenders website, we'll write it here. I can then share the link. I have this in presentation mode, so it's a little bit difficult, but on this website, you can find there information and filter by type, by the Horizon Europe program, type of program, calls, thematics, etc. So that is very well done. They have done that new website, as I mentioned, since 2018. It works quite well. It also helps you to find partners or other institutions that usually apply to Horizon 2020 and now Horizon Europe. And so we think it's a very good tool to start and to see where there are opportunities. Okay. Thank you very much, Omar. So that you shared one link. If there are no more questions, I will move forward. We will have another session where we can have further discussions and questions and answers. And so, of course, we can further discuss at that point. So now I am going to pass to the second part of the presentation here on the tips and recommendations for developing proposals or trying to develop a good proposal that might have the chance of getting approved. This is important, I would say, and maybe going back to say that, as I mentioned at the beginning, this section is based on the experience that we were able to build. And when I mean we, I mean SPI and even myself that have participated in a few proposals by now, on the experience we have gained throughout all these years. So we are aware that the approval of proposals is not easy. As I just mentioned, the success rate of these proposals is quite low if you compare to we are based in Portugal with other opportunities at the national level. It is quite low, and so there are some aspects that we think are important for having a more successful proposal. Of course, at the end, this will depend on the competition, this will depend on the idea, how and many other factors that we cannot control, but we should try to get the best proposal and consortium as possible. And so we want to provide you some tips that, in our view, lead to writing a better proposal. One aspect that we like to highlight is how to identify a specific call or topic of interest. And here we give the example of the opportunities within pillar 2 of the clusters. So you see that, of course, and having in mind what I have presented before, you see that you have different pillars. So if we think of pillar 2, within pillar 2, you have a specific cluster or program. Within that, you have a specific destination, okay? Within that destination, you have different calls. And within those calls, you have the topics that you will be able to apply to. Of course, this seems a lot, but at the end, you will search for the opportunities themselves, of course. You can see an example here. This was from a work program of the pillar of the cluster under pillar 2, the cluster of digital industry and space. You can see it there in blue. And if you can download these documents, which are basically, you can consult the calls in 2 places. One, in the funding and tenders portal directly in the website, like the link that Omar sent to you. You can then check opportunities within that, or you can download the full PDF document that includes the full work program with all the information that you need. And this is an example of the cover of that document of the work program that you can download from the website. And as I mentioned, you have a specific cluster. Within the cluster, you have a destination. In this case, it is climate neutral, circular, and digitized production. Within this destination, you have a specific call. So we are, as you see, going through layers and layers to specify then a specific opportunity or topic, as they call it. So when you apply, you will apply to a specific topic. You see the example of this, the topic of Twin Transition 0101 on AI-enhanced robotic systems for smart manufacturing. So this is the opportunity, in case you are thinking of applying, that you would apply to. So what should you consider at this first stage when you are trying to identify a topic or a call that you can apply to? As I mentioned before in the first part of the session, the experience of the consortium as a whole or your experience as an individual partner is very important to see if the activities that you can perform within the project address the specific requirements of the call. So you have there on the slide, check the areas of your organization if you have worked before nationally and internationally, the activities you did independently on the areas, geographical areas where you have experience. And so understand what you can bring to the table is very important. The second point, and this is relevant, of course, much more relevant when you are thinking of proposals to enter in a consortium of partners, but it is also important when you are applying individually, is who do you know in this area? Who have you worked with in the past at the European level, not only at the national level, within this topic or thematic? And so you can see other organizations with which you have partnered before and see if their business interests or their research interests match the objectives of the call or of the topic. And then also another point that we think it's important is what are your areas of interest? So of course, when we are thinking in specific for opportunities within pillar 2, you will want also, of course, you are developing a project that develops innovation and research of a common opportunity, not only for your organization, but also for the other consortium organizations. So what's the interest for you? Can you, by participating on that opportunity, besides receiving the grant, for the work that you will be providing. What will be the main areas of interest to you? Can this help me expand my business or my research institution? And so these are some aspects that you should consider when you are identifying a specific call or topic. Now, we here present on this slide a roadmap, sort of, or a step-by-step approach on, and this is, of course, our proposition. This is not mandatory. These are just some tips and recommendations from our experience. So this is a step-by-step approach of what you should do from the moment you identify a specific opportunity until the moment that you submit a proposal, either as a partner or as a coordinator. And so now I will go step by step and explain what could be the actions that you can take on each step in order to have the best activities or develop the best activities as possible for submitting a successful proposal, hopefully. So going initially to the call topic analysis, as I mentioned, so you have two ways of getting information. Personally, I like to go to this EU funding and tenders portal, finding information on the call. You have there, as you can see, the first tab actually is search funding and tenders, and you can there search for opportunities and proposals. And through that, you can see what is out there and what opportunities are there. Of course, you can also download the work program, as I mentioned. It has the advantage that includes all the official information, all listed in an index, as I showed you in the picture, so that can give you a better overall look of where the opportunities are, and also to understand what the Commission is planning with that specific work program. Because these are work programs from 2 to 2 years on different opportunities and priorities that the Commission gives for those specific thematics. The funding and tenders portal, again, this is available, and you can have the link through the chat, which was sent by Omar. So with that, you can identify different calls and different topics, and then the second stage will be reading the relevant support materials. This is related with the first analysis as well that you have to do when you are identifying a topic, because you need to have good time in understanding the activity and understanding the call text. Because as I mentioned, the calls are very competitive and have a very low success rate. So it is very important to understand if our organization fits the requirements of the call, and if the project that we want to develop is really in line with the call text and with the objectives of the Commission for that specific call. And so that is why we mentioned those 3 bullet points. The first on not wasting time preparing a proposal where you don't think that you will provide extensive added value. Of course, you need to see if your organization is or has a better chance of winning the project. And if not, what can my organization bring and what do I need from other partners that can be involved in a consortium? And I'm mentioning this for the opportunities of the clusters of Pillar 2. What other partners should I involve so that we can have a winning consortium and a winning proposal? And then, of course, to have material, have a good knowledge of the topic of the proposal and trying to understand and summarize what you want to do or what your organization can bring to the table so that this can be shared with other relevant institutions and partners. After understanding specifically how the materials and the information is organized in each, there is a need to take a decision, and this is of course in the cases where we are applying to proposals as a consortium. You will need to take a decision on whether you would like to be involved as a coordinator or the partner. This is of course very much related also with the not only with the experience of the organization in participating in these types of projects, but also the strategy of the organization. First, of course, to be a coordinator, you need to have some experience. You need to show that you are capable of, that you have the knowledge, that you have the capacity, internal capacity, human resources to develop the activities that you are proposing yourself to do, and that you can manage such project. Of course, that needs to be shown. But also this is very much dependent on how you want, what you want to take from the project. And so both roles have advantages and disadvantages. Starting from the coordinator, of course, the first point is that you have a direct communication with the EC, and this is of course very positive to interact with the Commission. And this is related also with the second point that is there, which is the coordinator role brings you much more visibility, not only at the national level, but international. This brings you the experience for future opportunities. Having you as a coordinator in the proposal or in a project will for sure open doors for future opportunities. And so this is very, very important. As I just mentioned, there is a need, of course, to show that you have experience in managing such projects in the past, and so that you can use this experience to manage future proposals. Of course, the effort needed to be a coordinator is very, very high, it's very demanding, but of course it has its advantage. In terms of time, it's much more demanding to be a coordinator than it is a partner. In terms of being a partner, this is a modality that is, of course, very adopted by different types of organizations, or organizations that don't have the same size as the ones as bigger organizations which can assume the coordinator role, but allows organizations to have experience in Horizon Europe projects, to enlarging their portfolio, not only of partners and projects, but of experience. And of course, this will as well bring opportunities for future projects. Of course, there is the grant that is provided, and specifically under Pillar 2. Under Pillar 3, the case is not like this, but again, as I mentioned, for example, the EIC opportunity on Open Accelerator that I mentioned is a single a proposal for a single partner, and so these conditions do not apply. But these opportunities within Pillar 2, not usually, and within the clusters, there is a need to develop a consortium of organizations. Of course, partnering is much less demanding than the coordinator role. So both have advantages and disadvantages. So what to decide? Again, this goes back to the questions that we tried to answer at the beginning. So what type of action is this? What is the experience of my organization in this thematic area? Have we coordinated a similar project in the past? Who are the other projects that might be developing a proposal? So who is my competition? And then the last point, which we think is one of the most relevant points when building proposals for Horizon Europe, is if we can put together a good partnership. So having good partners with you and involving relevant and experienced partners in proposals is one of the most important aspects of, or I would say at the beginning is the most important aspect for sure, for establishing the first step for a very successful proposal. So now we are going to provide some recommendations on how can we develop an idea, set up the consortium, and submit the proposal both in the perspective of a coordinator and the perspective of being a partner. So first on the coordinator, and of course the coordinating role implies that you need to develop an idea and to understand what you want to do. So usually the coordinator is the one that has the idea for a specific project. So what we do when we take this role is that we usually like to develop a summary of the project that we want to provide, so that we can use this summary to share it with other potential interested partners. This summary can contain information on the background of the idea, information of each work package, that is basically the different activities that are going to be developed under the project, so that we can demonstrate the idea and what we are thinking we want to do, and already to see if we can get through our network of contacts or through searching for relevant actors in the same field, also to start thinking of who can be the partners that would join with me the consortium. One very important aspect, especially when coordinating, so when you are in any other call, not only in Pillar 2, but in Pillar 3 or Pillar 1, is to contact the national contact points for Horizon Europe. So each, as you may know, each country at the European level has specific national contact points that should help organizations and partners in submitting and developing proposals for Horizon Europe. And it is important when you are thinking, especially when you are coordinating, to get in contact with these national contact points. These national contact points can help you to take and to understand the questions or specific doubts that you have concerning one call. You can also ask them and understand through them if there are other project partners or other consortiums that are being developed, and so or that maybe other organizations that could have interest in this opportunity. And so you can also get in touch with other organizations through the NCPs and to obtain any other relevant information that might not be available in the call text that is available in the European Commission website. And so we usually advise people to check their NCP networks. You have there the link in the slide. I can then show you again, but if you write national contact points for Horizon, you'll get to this website. You can select your country, and then you will see the list of people in your country that are responsible for supporting applications under Horizon Europe. And so we think it's always a good practice to get in touch as soon as possible with these NCPs, so that they know that you are planning to submit a proposal for Horizon Europe. Then the second point here as a coordinator, which is, I would say, one of the most relevant points, is to set up a consortium. So the proposal starts at a very early stage. In most cases, even when the proposal is not launched as yet, or you have information about the call, but the proposal is still 6-7 months from now, the deadline, already partners and the key players start moving and start checking the field on understanding what is out there, understanding which potential partners could be of relevance, which partners or organizations could be the best fit to address specific aspects of the call. And so the partnership has, in our view, and this is also my personal opinion, is one of the most relevant points, especially at the beginning stage, of having a very successful proposal. And so the bullet points that we have there focus on that. As you can see, the tasks that you plan to implement, for example, when we mentioned at the beginning that you should start understanding what you want to do with your project and your proposal, and should already define the different actions that you want to include. It is also good to see which partners could do those actions. And so start thinking and getting in contact with these institutions to see if they would be interested in getting involved. Then, of course, when we think of activities concerning dissemination, and as many of you may know, this is, of course, mandatory in Horizon Europe proposals, in some of the proposals at least. So it is relevant that you include different types of organizations. So you should not only include companies, for example, or not only universities or not only research institutions, but have consortiums that have different types of organizations and that can cover different regions in Europe. So it is important that you have partners that are from different regions in Europe and that can cover different geographic regions, not only in Europe, but sometimes even worldwide. And so it is important to have a consortium that, in one hand, has different expertise, different types of partners and different types of organizations, and also a consortium that can ensure that you can reach the whole European Union and that you can reach different actors of the ecosystem. So how can you identify these partners? Because this is of such importance. You need to get the right tools to identify the partner. Of course, the first step, and this is what we do, for example, here at SPI, is to try to identify through internal contacts what are the most relevant partners to join a potential consortium. And this comes from people that we have worked in the past, from previous Horizon 2020 projects or previous FP7 projects even. So trying to check if you have an experience in the past of developing proposals, trying to check previous proposals and the partnerships that were developed in the past. Besides that, you can also check within not only projects of Horizon Europe, but other projects that you have been involved in, your organization has been involved in at the national and international level, and see if those partners, those organizations could be a good fit for a potential proposal. And of course, you can always try to get new information about new partners through the partners that you already know. Another aspect that we use many times as well is to search through different tools. One of the tools that we use is the DIGI website. So this is a website from the European Commission as well. It is a database where you can get information from previous projects that have been approved under different programs of the Horizon 2020. And you can see information there on the projects. So you can go to this website, type a thematic area, see projects that are ongoing or that have finished under Horizon 2020, and see who are those partners. See who are the coordinators of those projects, so you can get in touch with them. See if the partners from those consortiums could potentially have a fit on what you are doing. And so try to engage with those organizations from the beginning. Of course, you can use LinkedIn or the social media for these groups. And finally, one tool that is very good as well, and that we are using since 2018, is to go to the funding and tenders portal of the European Commission, as we just mentioned at the beginning, and use the tool that I have for partner search. Here you can see partners, for example, that have the most number of approved Horizon 2020 projects in a specific area. And so you can see the statistics on that, and then you can, after identifying relevant potential partners or organizations, contact those and see if they would be interested in such opportunities. Another point which makes sense, not as much, it made more sense in the past before COVID, is to join events related with Horizon Europe. Usually these involve organizations that are interested in providing proposals and in writing proposals. And so for sure that you will get good networking contacts on these events. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning with the Cordis, to find previous projects. So go and look for other previous projects approved under Horizon 2020 in that same domain, so that you can see who are the coordinators, who are the leaders of those projects. And in this sense, you can contact those leaders and see if they would be interested in being involved in such opportunities. For the part of 5A and 5B that you can see on the slide, which is actually the proposal writing and submission, or in the case of being a partner, contribution to the elaboration of the proposal and submission, I'll talk about this both from the coordinator as in the partner's perspective, because there are common points that can be mentioned here. In terms of preparing your profile. So we think this is important for you to sell yourself. So we do this a lot of times, which is to create 1-2 page document where we can talk about our organization, who we are very briefly, what are our main competencies, and what is our added value to the call, our experience, previous project activities, or other types of actions that we have developed that we think are relevant. We find this to be very useful because doing this and having a good summary document of our profile, we can easily sell ourselves and easily show to the coordinators why we would bring value to the specific call, because this is very important. The coordinators basically want to understand what you can bring different, what you can bring that other organizations cannot. And so they want, of course, to have the best organizations with them. It is very important that you can show exactly what is your specific added value according to the call text. So use the same terminology that is used in the call text for doing so. After preparing a profile, the most important part is to identify a consortium, because as I mentioned, things start rolling very at the very early stage. And so the main players and the main coordinators and partners start talking and discussing cooperation a very long time before the proposal is actually submitted. So start as soon as possible with this process. The aspect of developing or joining a consortium. So what we try to do normally here is contact partners that we worked with previously, contact partners from previous projects. As I mentioned, for example, go to Cordis and check who is involved in the specific, in other previous specific calls or projects within the area, or ask your NCP or the European Commission for further information. Sometimes, as I mentioned, the NCPs have information about other organizations that are interested in the calls. And so you can then get in contact with them to understand better what could be the opportunities for cooperation. In terms of the proposal submission and writing, and here I'll go a little bit deep in terms of how the proposals are organized, specifically for Pillar 2, which is the one that has the highest value of budget, and some aspects that have changed from Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe. So some tips regarding the call, and this is also in line with what I presented before. First, try to have your project summary and work packages developed at the early stage, have your background information, and start filling the session on the consortium as a whole. So when you start writing, already start understanding what each partner can bring to the consortium and try to put together the vision for your consortium. What can your consortium as a set of organizations bring as experience to the call text? There is also an impact session that I will show afterwards, but don't leave it for last. The evaluation criteria is very important when writing the proposal, trying to understand what is needed, trying to look at the template that is provided in the funding and tenders portal for the specific goal. Sometimes it has specific aspects that are only considered for the call that you are looking for. So it is very important that you read everything very carefully and try to see, of course, go to the participant portal to see if anything changes. Sometimes there are small updates on aspects or information that is available. On writing proposals, here these are just some general tips. They seem very straightforward, but sometimes these are very useful tips, I would say. These are straightforward, and they are, but these small things are, in our opinion, very, very useful. The first is to try to use text and sentences that are simple and straight to the point. Sometimes we see that when we write proposals with other coordinators, or sometimes we lose ourselves in the process and write too much and sometimes don't say anything. So it is important that we try to be as clear as possible, practical. The space is not much, even now in Horizon Europe, is less than it was in Horizon 2020. And so the idea of having concrete, straight to the point sentences is very important. Then the formalities of the template, as I mentioned, please do check the templates that are provided by the European Commission. It has a lot of formalities in terms of format, and it has specificities that in terms of requirements for the proposal that sometimes vary from call to call. Of course, use a good formatting, the looks of the proposal, the way the proposal is designed in terms of having tables, of having bold sentences, of having something that is visually attractive. It's very important in our view for the evaluators to understand what we are saying. And we think that is one of the reasons why some proposals are approved and others are not. The way we are showing information. Evaluators do not have that much time to evaluate, and so sometimes they are looking for what is easier to read. It's easier for them to understand exactly what is meant there, and so we think that is an important point to be considered. Justify statements with concrete examples, so try to be as concrete as possible, and relating to the call text whenever possible. So use the keywords from the call text that are included there. Sentences and keywords should be included throughout the proposal so that evaluators can easily relate to the aspects that you are mentioning in the proposal to the call text. In terms of timing, again, things start very, very early. I would say we usually say 5-6 months in case you are coordinating to really have everything set until the deadline. So this is a very demanding process. And so we advise to have as much time as needed to start preparing everything with time, of course. Now we are here on the next slides. I'm going to present an example of the proposal structure for Pillar 2. And basically the proposals are divided in 2 parts. Part A, where you have the administrative forms and where you include the budget. This is developed in the online form of the European Commission on the Funding and Tenders portal. And then a part B, where you have basically our research, but it's not research, actually, it's research and innovation proposal. So where you have the text that is going to be evaluated and that will have an impact on whether the proposal will be approved or not. This part B is developed as a Word document and then uploaded as a PDF to the Funding and Tenders portal. And this part B should have 3 sections. One on excellence, the second one that is called impact, and the third one which is called quality and efficiency of the implementation. In terms of length of the proposals, you have 2 types of, actually 3 types of proposals that are grouped in 2 different sizes of these proposals. So you have one, which is the coordination and support actions, which are actions that aim to support, as mentioned in the title, coordination and support between different types of actors and networks. And then you have research and innovation actions and innovation actions. So research and innovation actions are actions to develop new technologies, new solutions, new projects, new research that can have a validation to market that goes on a more research base. And then there is the innovation actions, which are proposals that focus on solutions, technologies, research, and innovations that are more close to market. And so these proposals of research and innovation actions and innovation actions are proposals that should have a total of 45 pages. So as you can see, not much. And the CSAs, which are the coordinating and support actions, who have 30 pages. Okay. Within the 3 sections that are marked there, as you can see. So these are proposals that, in terms of the length of pages, and I say this from the examples I have, for example, in Portugal, these are quite short proposals. And so this is actually something that, and this has been reduced because in Horizon 2020, the limit for CSAs was 50 pages, and for research and innovation actions was 70 pages. And so this has been reduced, which shows that the Commission really wants to have practical, straight to the point proposals that show exactly what is intended and how things are going to be done. These are some general admissibility criteria conditions for all proposals submitted under the Funding and Tenders portal. So applications must be submitted before the call deadline via the Funding and Tenders portal, and they should be complete, readable, accessible, and printable, and they should have a plan for exploitation and dissemination of results. In terms of collaborative projects with consortiums, as I mentioned, you should have at least one legal independent entity in a member state and at least 2 other legal entities in different member states or associated countries. So these are the criteria for having partners submitting proposals. As I mentioned, the structure is the same as in Horizon 2020, although some sections have changed. But the part A is submitted through the web portal, and the part B is the narrative part, where it's actually the document of the proposal and where it is submitted as a PDF document in the Funding and Tenders portal. In terms of the part B, we just want to show how it is divided. So you first have one initial section of excellence, and here is where you talk about the objectives of the project, the ambition, and the methodology that you're going to have to adopt. This section is normally around 20 pages, and in research and innovation actions and innovation actions, and in CSAs around 8 pages. So here is where you talk about what you are going to do, how these objectives are going to be done, what is methodology, the rationale behind the idea, the project. So a more initial section of the proposal telling the story of how you came to this and how everything is going to be done. Then you have a second section which should have around 10 pages, which talks about the impact, how the project is going to address specific outcomes mentioned in the call text and objectives on the from the EU on different aspects that are mentioned in the call text. So how does our project address the impacts required by the European Commission? This section includes 3 subsections, one on the project pathways towards impact. So this is basically how our project addresses the different impacts. And a section 2.2 where we talk about the dissemination, exploitation, and communication actions. So how we can maximize the impact. And a new section, this is new for Horizon Europe, on a summary where you should present a table with the summary of the actions that you are going to take in terms of impact. So summarizing some of the things that you mentioned in the 2 previous sections. And finally, you have a 3rd section where it is focused on the quality and the efficiency of the implementation. So here on this third section, we talk about our work plan, what is going to be done, how many resources we are going to use, what is the consortium about, what is the added value of the consortium, and the capacity of the participants. So here is where we show actually what is going to be done and the timeline for doing that. Finally, some evaluation criteria on what the Commission is looking for on each section. So you have there the excellence, the impact, and the quality of the implementation. Of course, this is very much related with what I was mentioning throughout the presentation. You see there on the excellence part on how clear, objective, and targeted the objectives should be, how we show that the work is ambitious, how we show that we are doing something innovative, and what are the concepts and the models behind this. What methodology are we proposing? So these are the aspects that the evaluators are seeking to see in the excellence part. In terms of the impact, of course, the credibility of the outcomes and the expected impacts, how likely we can, and to which scale and significance can the activities of our project address the impacts that are specified in the work program. So this is very important. And how can we make sure that these outcomes and the impacts are maximized? How can we, through a dissemination and exploitation, make sure that the activities we do address the impacts in a larger scale? I think that's one of the things that the Commission is looking for. And finally, the quality of the work plan. So are we, the work that we are actually going to do in the project, does it make sense? Is it in line with the capacity of the consortium? Is the effort well balanced between the different partners? So this is, how is the management going to be done? And so this is what the Commission is looking for in this section. Finally, this is the last slide, actually, just some key principles on developing proposals for this topic. So your proposed work must go in line with the work program topic, as I just mentioned. Demonstrate that the idea goes beyond the state of the art, goes beyond what exists, is innovative. The methodology at the scientific level must take into account those aspects, gender dimension, open science, etc. You should show how we contribute to the outcomes and impacts, and this is related with what I just mentioned. Describing the measures to maximize impact in a certain level of detail, and we should be specific as possible, taking into account the size of the proposal, of course, and demonstrate the quality of the work, the resources and participants. How can the consortium bring value? So just to close, I think, again, this goes in line with what I was mentioning in the beginning, that the proposals are, of course, very demanding in terms of building a consortium, writing the proposal, although it is not very long, as I mentioned, but it needs to take into account a lot of things. It needs to be very specific, and the competition is very high. Anyway, we think from our experience, and we have been involved in more than 50 projects in Horizon 2020, there is room for opportunities for different types of organizations and of organizations from different sizes. Either it is SMEs or large organizations, large companies, research institutions, universities, etc. And so we think there is room for different institutions. That's the objective of Horizon Europe, involving the different innovators and the different research actors in the program. We think this is very important, and there is room for participation from these types of institutions. And so we think this can be a very good opportunity. And more, the program lasts for 7 years. So there is room to apply to different calls and different topics throughout these 7 years. And so this is a very, very large program. We invite everyone, of course, to take a look at the contents that are available on the website and in the funding and tenders portal. And of course, from our side, I would say, and from my side specifically, I can share with you then my email through the chat. I'll do that when I finish this last slide. But you can send us information and even topics that you are interested. If we know of someone, or if we are aware of any opportunity, we can also share it with you. And even other information that we have, or support that we can share with you, experiences that we had before. We are very interested in doing that. Of course, more information can be provided also by the national contact points. As I mentioned, these are very good sources of information. And so in case you have specific aspects concerning specific calls or topics, maybe that is the best route to go. I think we are now, if Omar agrees, open to questions, discussions, and also hearing from you if you have experience before in the program, what have been your previous practices on this, and of course to discuss a little bit this topic. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Francisco, for this wonderful workshop about Horizon Europe. I hope everyone enjoyed this workshop and benefit from it as a good guide to prepare the proposal and choose the adequate call of available tenders on the website of the European Commission. Please, if you have any question, please ask. Francisco, there is only one question remains in the chat. Can you check, please?
Yes. Okay, one question about the EIC accelerated. Yes, from our understanding, the EIC accelerator and the call that I presented, it's for single SMEs, so supports individual SMEs or startups. So it doesn't need partners. Thank you. And this one is actually, I would say that the EIC opportunities, and you can see there the different ones that are there in the. I will send you here this link that I'm just sending on the chat. These ones would be, I would say, the most fitted for individual applications of SMEs. Okay. I would say that for SMEs, and of course, please feel free to pose any other questions while I'm speaking. I would say that for SMEs, opportunities within the EIC and also Horizon Europe Pillar 2, because there are, and of course, EIE, the Pillar 3, the other program that I shared information with, it is relevant as well. But I would say that Pillar 2, as a partner, I think there are many opportunities for innovative SMEs, because the Commission, of course, wants consortiums that involve different types of factors, as I just mentioned. So having SMEs is good for the consortium as well, because we are having different types of institutions involved. And of course, it doesn't mean that you get a role that is that proeminent or that strong, but you can get small roles or small activities within a specific project. And so we think that opportunities for SMEs and startups and companies can come especially between Pillar 2 and Pillar 3, specifically the EIC. I don't know if there is any.
I have a question, please.
Please go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see who was it, but please go ahead.
Okay, do you know the figures about the rate of participation of SMEs compared with universities or research institutes?
No, I do not know. That's a good question. I'm not sure if there is any information on that. There might be from the European Commission on Horizon 2020. and probably you will be able to find that in the funding and tenders portal. From my experience in participating in Pillar 2 calls, of course, the previous Pillar 2 in Horizon 2020, not now in Horizon Europe, the rate of SMEs in comparison with research organizations such as universities, research institutions was much lower. So normally in a consortium of 10 partners, we will have 2 or 3 SMEs, if that's the case, the most, I would say. But this is from my experience and the sense that I have in joining different opportunities. Of course, it is as well very much dependent on the type of opportunities. There are, even under Pillar 2, actions that focus it more on supporting businesses or supporting the development of innovative actions for businesses, and maybe their SMEs could have a more strong contributions, I would say. But answering to the question, no, I do not have the numbers of SMEs participation in the program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I don't know if there is any other question.
Hi, I'm Marsha here from IMCOMEX. I also have a question. It's about the Pathfinder Open. If I'm correct, you need 3 participants for that fund or grant. Do you know whether there is a certain distribution in budget or allocation of work between the partners, or does it need to be like 1/3 each, or can it be within a certain range?
I would say that that is very much dependent on what your project does, because from the experience that we have, the consortiums and the budgets are formed according to the experience of the partners and according to what you are going to do within the project. So if there is partners, or if there are partners that have a more prominent role, the budget or it's going to be more on those partners. So I would say that this is the case here as well, because I'm seeing that the calls is open for collaborative projects with at least 3 partners, so it can actually be more from what I understand. And so this will very much, I don't think there is any guideline on the distribution. This should be just in line with the activities that each partner will provide, and to make sure that the budget proposed makes sense according to the activities that are going to be done within the project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this for the Pathfinder, the deadline is 27th of October. I'm checking here. So there's still not much time, but still some time to do this first application.
Any question? If there are no more questions, we will close the session. Thank you very much for your attending this workshop. We will send you the link of the recording of this workshop by email. Also, the recording will be disseminated on DIGI-B-CUBE channels and YouTube. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Omar. Thank you, everyone.